Welcome to the Spin Axis Podcast. I'm Erik Barzeski.
I'm Jayson Nickol.
I'm Tyson Deskins.
I'm Michael Neff, founder of Gears Golf.
In today's episode, we're lucky enough to have Michael Neff, as you just heard, founder of Gears Golf. Michael, how are we doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get a little time with you guys. It's been great. We've had a little hard time getting together, but this is exciting. I'm glad this is a fun topic, and I'm excited to talk to you guys.
So, Michael, I bought Gear System about 5 years ago, and even when you showed up to help me install it, you were talking about what was called the Nipper curve back then, your nickname being Nipper. I guess it's been rebranded, unfortunately, to the Gears curve.
Yes.
Maybe, but, I like the old, I'm going to call it the old thing. What is the Nipper curve? I'm going to keep calling it that.
All right. So basically, it's a constant lie concept where all the clubs are the same lie angle. If you were to look at your golf clubs in your bag, any of your listeners right now, you would have let's call it a 4-through pitching wedge, and they would have the same sticker on those shafts. Let's say it's a Dynamic Gold S300, and it's the same sticker on all 7 shafts. But if you were to take your clubs and put them on a frequency machine, they would not be the same flex, because the longer the club gets, the softer it gets. And what happens, the softer the shaft gets, the more the shaft droops. And when the shaft droops, the face opens. When the face opens, the ball goes to the right. The opposite's true with the wedge. So the shorter you get, the stiffer the shaft gets, the less the shaft droops. Therefore, the lie angle stays more upright, and we know that is keeping the face more closed. So that's why many of your listeners and tour players and all of us golfers, if you just took your bag out and you just hit into a screen with no data and you didn't, it was just a blind test, your wedges would go more left than your 4-iron. So
Absolutely.
The concept is that we bend the lie angles to compensate for the shaft drooping a lot with the wedges, or a little bit with the wedges and a lot with the 4-iron.
Before we go on, just for those listening, droop is what?
Droop is how the shaft bows downward.
So toe down.
So toe down, yes. Now, That doesn't mean
and what causes droop?
That basically the longer the shaft gets, the softer it gets, the more it will droop. But also the force that you're applying to the handle upward also causes shaft droop. It's a combination of those things. So just because,
right.
So it's possible that you have a really low handle swing and the shaft is drooping a lot, but the lie angle's still upright. So at impact, but it's still drooping. So if it didn't droop, it would be even more upright. So the shaft droops. Every golf shaft droops. Every swing, there's shaft droop. Bryson has the least amount of shaft droop of any tour player. Now he has a little bit more because he's changed his swing. But when he had that one swing handle up, the handle never changed from low to high in his swing. He always stayed as much ulnar as he could. Still does that for a little bit, but he has the least amount of shaft droop of any tour player we've ever measured. So basically, that ulnar deviation is what really causes the shaft droop. And then the longer the shaft gets, the more the shaft droops. The softer it gets, the more the shaft droops. And that drooping causes the face to open from wherever it was at. When you go to Golf Galaxy and you get fit for a golf club, or you go to the local pro shop, or you go to wherever we're going to go, they have a 7-iron for you to test, or a 6-iron. And they say, well, you need to be 2 degrees flat. Okay, so in TaylorMade's world, for example, that 7-iron is most likely going to be right around 60 degrees. And so they'll build the 7-iron to 60 degrees, but then they'll go and they'll build everything 2 degrees flatter than standard. What I am saying is that all your clubs need to be 60 degrees in that scenario. If you go in and you take that 7-iron and the fitter says, hey, you need to bend your club's toe up 2 degrees. That would make that club 64 degrees. What I'm saying is that all your irons need to be 64 degrees, which would make your wedge standard, and which would make the 4-iron need to be bent almost 5 degrees upright, which is a lot. So that's the concept of the Nipper Gears curve. It's basically bending the lie angle to constant lie to compensate for the shaft droop. Tony Finau, for example, is 64 degrees. All of his clubs are 64. Ricky Fowler, Billy Horschel, all of their clubs are 59 degrees. That means their wedges are like 4 or 5 degrees flat, and their 4-iron is standard. Tony Finau, his wedge is standard, but his long iron is 4 degrees upright. So that's basically what I'm calling this. And it's a very difficult thing to explain for the manufacturers. And I have a lot of people always say, well, why, how come nobody knows about this? And truth is they used to do this all the time. Like Hogan has, like I've kind of looked at some of his old sets, and very little lie angle changes. Lee Trevino told me that he used to do this as well. And somewhere along the line, we kind of got away from this. But it really has to do with, it's a very difficult thing to measure because nobody measures the shaft. And that's kind of why I think we're in that situation we're in.
Yeah. I've been doing this for...
Except for us.
five years every time I've gotten fit. Like my wedges are bent down and my 4-iron's up too. So like how far, like you just like, would you do it from one club or would you like try to customize it?
This is a real simple thing for all your listeners to do right now.
Yeah.
Take any club in your bag, whatever it is, bend it and keep hit shots with it and bend the lie angle until you get the shot shape that you like. Okay. Measure that club. Whatever that club is, that's your number. That's what all of them should be.
Huh.
Now, we're not talking about lob wedge chipping. Like, that's different. Like, Ricky keeps his lob wedge a degree more upright because of the way he likes to chip. But on we're talking full swings here. Basically, you have to, that's the concept. And so you can just pick any club in your bag, bend it until you get the shape that you want, and then put it back in the loft line machine, and whatever that number is, that's your number.
What club do you recommend using though?
Doesn't matter.
7-iron.
Yeah, just hit whichever club you like hitting the best, and then just find out.
That's why you'll have like some of your customers like, my 7-iron is perfect. I love my 7-iron, but I hate my 5-iron, or I hate my 9-iron, or whatever. You know, that tour players actually have that. Like, we did this with Kevin Kisner. He's like, dude, my 8-iron, something's so wrong with my 8-iron. Like, sure enough, you know, we had that. We found that out pretty quick. So even tour players.
Who's that? Shahith? He's got like 2 8-irons or something crazy like that.
I don't know.
Because he did like a 7-iron.
I have no idea about that.
Yeah.
So that's the concept. And what happens is the tighter dispersion. The goal here is to get tighter dispersion downrange. And we've had a lot of success on the PGA Tour with doing constant lie. Today.
You've actually done some testing with this, and you can maybe send me the graphics for it later, but you've actually done some testing of this with some tour players and better amateur players. Yes,
of course. Yeah. I mean, where it kind of started was, I did this test with 10 Korean tour players, female. Koreans are great at, like, if you ask them to get on gears, you'd have a line out the door. Everybody would want to get on gears. If you show up at the PGA Tour event, nobody wants to get on gears. They're all super scared of technology and the numbers. In Korea, it's the exact opposite. I had 10 LPGA players. The combined income of those 10 players was about $20 million. These were all very good players. I put a stock set of clubs on gears. I had each player hit 5 shots blind. What that means is at TrackMan, you had gears hitting into a net. They couldn't see where the ball was going. I just said, I need 5 shots from each of you with each club. It took us a whole day. And basically that's where it was born. In every scenario, the ball from a 4-iron, or from the wedge to the 4-iron, went in the right direction. The longer the club got, the more right it went. And some of them would pull their wedges and hit their 7-iron straight, and the long irons would go right. Some of them would hit their wedges straight. The 7-iron goes right. The 4-iron goes even more right. But 10 out of 10, blind test, every shot went to the right. Every shot. And it was like the easiest test I've ever done. So then I went through and I did the whole robot testing, and we figured out exactly what's happening, with the shaft. And there's a lot of shafts that do different things, but for the most part, we've done a lot of testing with this. And then on the PGA Tour, we have, great stories with, Ricky Fowler had, like, the before and after with him was awesome. Same with Billy Horschel. He went from like 129th to 7th in greens and reg. And, he won a couple times last year. I got him right after he had that meltdown on social media.
Oh yeah,
at the memorial.
It's a great story. It's a great story. Like, he was like, dude, I'll try anything. Ricky, same way, dude. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'll try anything. That's usually when guys come and see me. It's like, I'll try anything, and it's like, actually what you want to do is when you win, you want to get on gears. You want to get tested. You want to get your data when you win or when you're playing great. That's really when you should get on. Don't wait until you're having a car crash moment. And So, anyways, I have about 15 PGA Tour players, Korn Ferry players doing Gears Curve right now today, and I have yet to have average strokes gained is about 2.47. Not one of those players has lost strokes gained in greens and reg, and I am really proud of that. Like, I'm really happy about that.
That's awesome, Michael.
So really good results from. So it's a very simple concept, and it's hard to explain.
Yeah. Once we get out of irons, is it different like hybrids, 3-woods, driver?
But the longer the club gets, the more the fairway woods and the driver, the more it's going to droop. The challenge is that the heads are you can't really bend the lie angles on those clubs.
Right.
So there's a little bit.
And they have different shafts also. So
and they have different, so it's
Can you get like
you're kind of in a messy spot there.
Okay.
Other thing is that if you have a player like I had a very good player come to me and he's pulling his wedges, overdrawing, hits his 4-iron perfect, but pulling his wedges, hits a draw with a 7-iron, pulls his wedges, hits his 4-iron perfect. So if you're hitting a 4-iron perfectly, then something has to be going well. I mean, Billy Horschel told me,
right,
like when he was having his meltdown, like, dude, nobody hits a 4-iron better than I do. And I thought that was very interesting. Like, nobody hits a 4-iron better than me. Something must be going really well, and that's when I kind of knew that this was probably an equipment issue. And what's cool about Gears, it gives you body and club. So we were able to figure out that the body data was really clean, but the club was coming in 3 or 4 degrees upright. The challenge sometimes that players get, and I've had this happen to me with a couple players. Tag Ridings was one of them, where he shows he's coming in 4 or 5 degrees upright with a wedge, and I flatten the wedge 4 or 5 degrees, and then they look at it and they lower the handle even more because they can't look at the club
manipulate to the
flat,
club,
visually. They just keep lowering the handle and bend their waist more, bend their knees more, and they actually change the swing plane and everything. And that's not what our goal is here. So in that scenario, you have to go softer in the shaft so that it will droop more, because we don't want a really good player like that's making really good contact to start changing their setup or their posture for the fact that they keep the handle down, which is a great thing. We don't want a lot of change and deviation with the owner. We don't want a lot of that handle raising in a golf swing. Nobody should be teaching in our game to raise the handle a lot in a full swing. Maybe a little bit in chipping. I can see how that might, but you really don't want a lot of change happening. Maybe a chipping, you'd start with the handle up and you kind of finish with a little bit more, but that's for certain shots. We shouldn't be teaching somebody to move the handle up a lot. And that basically what Ricky Fowler did was had the highest delta of any tour player in our database of handle raise from start to impact. And that's why he had the most shaft droop of any tour player. And he plays the stiffest product, way stiffer product than you would think he would need. And so basically he didn't have a problem visually with the irons, and it was like immediate results. I mean, he like the next week it was a second. I don't know if you remember that tournament in Vegas where he took second and he lost to Rory on the last day. He was 8 shots gained tee to green that week. 8 shots.
Wow.
Ricky Fowler's never had that number ever, and he was like 40th in putting. And he's usually like an amazing putter. Like he took second, not making anything.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's kind of the concept. We've had a lot of success on tour, but just a lot of amateurs. And doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a tour player. This concept will work. Now, if you're hitting it all over the face and you have a hard time making contact, you're going to have a harder time seeing this. But if you can make somewhat consistent contact, it's going to work.
Michael, I got a question for you. Like this, you said this is a difficult concept sometimes to explain. This sounds pretty simple to me. Like when you talk about this makes so much sense. My question is, what type of feedback have you gotten from the fitting community, right? Because my question is like, why aren't
great question
all fitters grasping at this? So what kind of feedback have you gotten?
I would say that it's very just that dude's fetching crazy, all the club manufacturers would be doing this if it really mattered. But when I went back and I saw when Lee Trevino told me that he used to do this, then I knew I was onto something. It's like,
yeah,
but at the same time, the equipment's changed a lot. I love all the OEMs. We're customers with TaylorMade's my biggest customer, and they have 40 gear systems now. And, I love everything they're doing. So it's like, think about how difficult it would be to explain to the fitting world what's really going on with the shaft. Just think about how impossible that story would be unless you have a device that will actually measure how much the shaft is drooping or deflecting or twisting. So you basically, if you have a TrackMan, you're getting dynamic lie angle, which is not great, or you get a quad that gets dynamic lie angle, which is definitely better. TrackMan's an amazing product, so I don't want to throw shade on them for any way, shape, or form. But it's
an algorithm getting that. It's not actually measured.
Quad is by far the most accurate on our testing, on robot testing with gears, with other optical motion capture systems, with phantom cameras. The quad is the closest thing to gears. We are extremely accurate on lie angle, and the launch monitor that's probably the closest is the quad, but it's still not, they don't know bulge and roll. They're not measuring the shaft. They're just doing impact. They're not seeing how it's kind of working into it. We can kind of show you how the handle's getting there, which is great for fitting and instruction. And we're showing you the actual delta, before and after. So that you have to calibrate the golf club to make that happen, which is extremely difficult. None of the OEMs, none of the fitters, nobody wants to take time to calibrate a golf club. One of the reasons why gears is kind of a hard product to scale, but it's also really accurate. But it's also really valuable. Like it's worth whatever 30 seconds it takes to calibrate a golf club. It's worth it.
Yeah. And for one good player that comes in, I've done this with some of the players that I've worked with, where I'll take their 4-iron, their 7-iron, and their pitching wedge and just space them out and just see what the gaps are in those 3 clubs. And then if they find big gaps, you can put the 5-iron and the 6-iron in and the 8-iron and the 9-iron in and do the full thing and just transfer the markers over and spend it half of a day or 2 hours or whatever doing that and just hitting enough shots to where they say, yeah, I felt like I hit that one pretty good, and then see, oh, that one had 2 degrees more droop than the other one. Adjust the lie angle, hit it again, and go from there.
So I mean, to answer your question, Tyson, I still think most people think I'm crazy, but I don't care.
Well, you might still be crazy, but
I'm measuring the stuff with extremely, phantom cameras and optical motion capture systems, and it's very accurate. So,
well, and to your point, like I used to be a player who used to hit most of my irons pretty straight, but I would pull my wedges. And when I learned this concept and I would sort of flatten my wedges just in my own setup, not actually bending the club, all of a sudden I'm starting all my wedges online, right? And so like the concept, it made so much sense to me. And, droop by itself isn't a bad thing. It's just we all have different amounts and we need to know how we react.
Well, and good players have been flattening their wedges for decades, but also the wedge flex is a softer flex shaft, though, in most lines, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you go wedge flex, it is a little bit softer for that very reason. But your listeners need to understand this, is that the more loft a club has, the more important lie angle becomes. So if you have no loft on a club, the droop doesn't matter. The lie angle is not affecting the face angle. The face angle and the lie angle are inseparable. When you move one, the other moves. So when you're going softer in the shaft, it will flatten the shaft. It will actually open the face. So that's the other thing that we learned, is that when I was a kid, when I went to PGA school, it was like I was taught that if you wanted to make somebody draw something, you need to go higher torque, softer to get them to sling it, draw it more. And it's the exact opposite of that. It actually makes, on a robot, assuming that there's also gearing effect to consider in that. So you could hook a soft club, but in general, the softer the club gets, the more it droops, the more that opens the face. The more torque a club has, the more that lays the face open, and it actually doesn't rebound or stay with the grip twist as fast or as well. So lower torque is actually more left. And that's one of the reasons why low torque shafts go low, not just because it doesn't deflect as much, but because they twist to the left more. So that closes the face, which lowers the loft, which lowers the spin. So high launch right, if you want a ball to go, you need more spin and you don't want it to hook, you need to go less torque, or more torque, excuse me. And the opposite's true with the lower torque.
All right, so repeat for the listeners what the simple thing they could do at home, again, is, what their main takeaway is.
Okay, real simple. Take any club in your bag, bend it until you get the shape. So you'll hit a shot, and if it hooks, you'll flatten it. And if it goes straight, you're like, okay, great. But keep hitting a bunch of shots with that one club and keep bending the lie angle, flat, upright, whatever you need to do. Bend it until you get the shape that you want, or try out clubs that have flatter, more upright lies. When you get to the shape that you like, measure that club. Find out what the lie angle of that club is. That will then be your number. You would want all your clubs bent to that number.
Makes sense.
And that's a simple test. I challenge anybody to do it. It's worked for tour players. Tour players have won PGA Tour events immediately after doing this.
Just do it.
And fortunately, I'm not real good at collecting money on things like that. It works. That works. That stuff works, man, especially with the wedges. The wedges are such an important club. And the wedges, the lie angle matters the most with the wedges. So when you have an upright wedge, that is just like, it's a killer. Way more than a 4-iron. So for example, on a robot, a 2-degree lie angle with a 4-iron upright goes about 8 feet left on a robot. With that same 2 degrees upright with a sand wedge, it goes like 17 feet left on a robot. So significantly more. The same lie angle goes way more offline with a wedge than it does with a 4-iron.
John Graham asked me a bunch of years ago, 13 years ago, to figure out if a ball that's above your feet on a putt affects the start line versus a ball that's below your feet. So I did the trigonometry on that, plus all the other lofts and stuff like that. I'll send you the link. It's 13 years ago, but the more loft you have, the more the lie angle affects it. Because obviously, again, if you have zero loft, you could have a 90-degree face and it's still pointing in the same direction. So
It's a Sao Aoki, right? I mean, that dude was probably 30 degrees upright. And average LPGA Tour driver is about 15 to 16 degrees upright at impact. And it's about 25 degrees upright at the address position. So we don't really have a mechanism for shorter players or players with long arms. We really need flatter product. Gears is developing products now to try to assist with that. We're going to be launching a fairway wood very soon. I made a driver that's really flat, that's awesome, but I don't want to compete in the driver space. But I really do. You can get a flat sleeve if you know somebody in the tour departments, or if you ask the right people, you can get kind of a flatter sleeve and or go softer in the shaft to get it to droop more.
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where can people find out about you, find out about Gears? Where would our listeners find you?
Yeah, gearsports.com or gearsgolf.com or Michael Neff Golf Instagram. We're all over the place. Not hard to find us. Just check out Gears on Instagram or Facebook. But I would challenge all your listeners to just try it. You have nothing to hide. Most good players pull wedges. I mean, I get this all the time. Good short players, kids really have this challenge, or players with long arms. And good swings too. Swing players that are really lowering the club and, not raising the handle and rotating really well. They're usually going to have a problem with the wedge. If you need to bend a golf club upright, really upright, you probably need a lesson before you need to do that. So if you do my test and your number 66, you probably need a lesson before, and you'll also break the 4-iron trying to bend it to 66, unless it's a Strixon or Mira.
That's amazing.
But you really need to think about that. Like if you need upright clubs, you better be tall with short arms, or you need a lesson.
Well said.
You're a T-Rex.
You shouldn't be that steep.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a T-Rex. That's me. If you're T-Rex, I can live with that. Long clubs, long upright clubs. That whole Henry Griffiths thing was the worst thing for golf. I mean, that just it fixes a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid fix for a guy that never wants to take a lesson, and you can get some enjoyment out of it. I'm okay with that. But it's like, if you're teaching somebody to be that steep, then you shouldn't be teaching golf. And if you're having that, so I highly encourage your players, if you're making the right swing, the handle's coming down, not going up.
Beautiful.
I mean, how many golf pros are going to teach to get the handle more up in a golf lesson? It's very rare where the handle's actually too low. That's actually pretty rare. I don't see that.
Jayson, where can people find us?
You can find us on all social medias at The Spin Axis, and you can find us online at thespinaxis.com to listen to all of our old episodes.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.